My sister stole my identity to get a mortgage, then invited me to her housewarming. I showed up with the police. The housewarming invitation was sitting on my kitchen counter when my phone rang. It was my bank. They wanted to confirm the mortgage I had apparently just taken out on a 3-bedroom house in Riverside County. The mortgage I knew absolutely nothing about. I sat down slowly because my legs stopped working. The address on the loan? It was the same address printed on the invitation in front of me. My sister had stolen my identity, bought herself a house in my name, and then sent me an invitation to come celebrate it with her. I showed up, just not the way she expected. Let me back up, because this story didn't start with a mortgage fraud. It started with a family that had 2 very different children and made absolutely zero effort to hide which one they preferred. My name is Carter. I'm 34, male. My sister's name is Danielle. She's 31. And from the moment Danielle was born, my parents treated us like we were from 2 completely different families. I was the older brother, expected to be tough, independent, and shoulder my own burdens. Danielle was the delicate younger sister who needed to be constantly rescued, funded, and protected from the real world. When I was 16, I wanted to take a summer photography class. $40. My mom told me money was tight and I should get a job. That same summer, Danielle got a brand new laptop, a trip to a cheer competition, and a promise that they'd pay for her first car. They did too. Paid in full. I bought my first car with lawn mowing money and a small loan from my grandmother. She was the only person in that house who treated me like I mattered. School was the same story. I paid for college mostly myself with scholarships and federal loans. My parents contributed exactly $2,000 over 4 years. Danielle scraped through high school, skipped college entirely, and my parents called it a brave and bold choice to forge her own path. After college, I moved to Sacramento, got a decent job in healthcare administration, and started building a life, slowly, responsibly. I rented for 6 years, drove a beat-up Civic, and skipped vacations. Every single sacrifice was going toward one goal, owning my own home. I hit my savings goal at 32, put down a solid down payment, and bought a modest 2-bedroom condo. The day I got my keys, I sat on the floor and cried. My parents came to see it once. My dad said the ceiling seemed low. Danielle didn't come at all. Meanwhile, Danielle was bouncing between jobs, cities, and whatever guy was currently funding her lifestyle, calling my parents every time the money ran out. About a year ago, she moved back into my parents' spare room to figure things out. Suddenly, my mom started asking me weird financial questions over the phone. How did the mortgage process work? Did I still bank at First Pacific? What was my account number format? Then Danielle started being unusually nice to me. She'd grab coffee, come over, and use my bathroom for a weirdly long time. I noticed she was looking at the documents on my fridge when she thought I wasn't watching. I had a mortgage statement pinned up there, account number fully visible. I thought I was being paranoid. I was not. The call came on a Wednesday morning while I was at work. First Pacific Bank's mortgage department was calling to do a routine verification on a recent application for a property in Riverside County. I told the woman I had not submitted any mortgage application. When she checked the system, she told me the application had been submitted under my full legal name, my social security number, my date of birth, my current employer, and my accurate income. Only the signature didn't match. Their fraud detection system had flagged it automatically. I told them to freeze everything, and I drove straight to the bank. The loan officer pulled up the monitor. There it was, my entire financial identity used to buy a house. But here's the part that made me grip the edge of the desk. The emergency contact listed on the application? My mother. The cosigner listed as a reference? My father. This wasn't Danielle acting alone. This was a family project. I got copies of everything and drove home in complete silence. When I got to my doormat, there was the housewarming invitation. Come celebrate Danielle's new home. The address matched the fraudulent mortgage. There was a handwritten note at the bottom in my mother's handwriting. So proud of your sister. Hope you can make it, sweetheart. I immediately called a ruthless fraud lawyer named Patricia, and then I filed a police report. The detective from the Financial Crimes Unit, Detective Reyes, reviewed the bank documents. She asked if I would be willing to cooperate with a controlled response. She said, "It means you RSVP yes to that housewarming party. Mr. Carter, and we'll be right behind you." The housewarming was on a Saturday afternoon. I wore a nice shirt, brought a bottle of wine, and acted completely normal. The house was a nice 3-bedroom in a new development. My house, technically, until the fraud was unwound. There were about 15 people there, neighbors, family, and friends. My mother hugged me at the door. "Carter, you made it. Doesn't it look wonderful?" Danielle came out of the kitchen holding a glass of champagne, beaming. "Carter, you came!" She hugged me and whispered, Doesn't it feel good to support your sister for once? I smiled and said I wouldn't have missed it. At exactly 3:15 p.m., 2 police cars pulled up outside. Detective Reyes and 3 officers walked straight through the front door. The room went dead silent. Detective Reyes found Danielle and said, "Danielle, I need you to come with me." Danielle's champagne glass slipped. My mother stepped forward, yelling that this was a private party. The officers told my parents to stay exactly where they were. My father's face went completely white. Danielle looked across the room at me, her voice cracking. "You called the police on me? Your own sister? At my housewarming?" I looked back at her and said, "It's not your housewarming, Danielle. You stole my identity, Mom helped you, and Dad was a reference. Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" Total silence. My father collapsed into a chair. Danielle started crying as the detective put a hand on her arm and led her outside in front of all her guests. The first 48 hours after the housewarming, Sting weren't a quiet victory. They were a nightmare of notifications. Once Danielle was released on bail, my phone practically melted down. My mother left me 6 furious voicemails. "She's your sister, Carter. She made a mistake, but she was going to put your name on the deed. You are ruining a 31-year-old girl's life over paperwork. Call the police and tell them you overreacted." Then came the extended family. My parents had immediately spun the story, telling everyone that Danielle and I had bought the house together, had a petty disagreement, and that I had spitefully called the cops to teach her a lesson. I didn't argue. I just took a screenshot of the fraudulent loan document showing my parents, listed as references, sent it to the family group chat, and blocked every single one of their numbers. Unwinding the fraud was a grinding, exhausting part-time job. For 3 months, I lived on hold with the fraud department. Even with a police report, the bank treated me like I was the liability. I had to freeze my credit across all bureaus, sign endless affidavits, and watch my credit score plummet before they finally cleared the debt. That was when Patricia, my lawyer, filed the civil suit against my parents. When my dad received the summons, he actually showed up at my condo. I didn't open the door. He stood on my porch for 20 minutes, yelling through my Ring camera that a son doesn't sue his own blood, and that I was tearing the family apart. I just muted the app. Danielle's case never went to a full trial. Her public defender took one look at the mountain of evidence, including her 2 prior fraud incidents in Phoenix, and negotiated a plea deal. She got 2 years of probation, mandatory financial restitution, and a permanent felony on her record. My parents were named in the civil suit and settled out of court, which covered all my legal fees and then some. I was there the day she accepted the plea deal in court. When the hearing was over, we ended up in the same hallway near the elevators. My parents were flanking her like bodyguards. Danielle looked at me, scoffed, and snapped, "I hope you're happy, Carter. You already had a house. You weren't even using your credit. I was trying to build equity for the family, and you just had to be selfish." I looked at her, then at my parents, who were nodding along like she had just made a perfectly logical point. They weren't sorry they did it. They were just angry they got caught. I didn't say a word. I just stepped onto the elevator and watched the doors close on my family for the absolute last time. I have not spoken to my mother since, and my father only called once to ask if we could move past this. I told him I already had. Going no contact feels like a strange, complicated grief at first. But then you wake up and realize you aren't bracing for the next thing they're going to take from you. My condo is still mine. I repainted the living room deep green, and I have a big houseplant by the window named Patricia. Some people earn loyalty, and some people teach you exactly what you're worth when you finally stop letting them decide.